Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the Green Bay Packers sitting at 8-8, but they've won their last 4 football games. If we go back just a month ago, after that Sunday night loss against the Philadelphia Eagles, the Packers were sitting at 4-8, and they had less than a 3% chance to make the playoffs. Well, they went to Chicago. Rodgers continued to look at his real estate property. They got the victory there. Came back home against the Rams. Primetime football. Got the win there. Christmas Day. Head on down to South Beach, Miami. Get the win there. Come back home on New Year's Day and take down the Minnesota Vikings. The score was 41-17, but that score doesn't even do the game justice. It wasn't close. It was never close, and the Packers dominated. So they've won 4 straight football games, and instead of just 1 month ago having a 3% chance to make the playoffs, if they win, they're in. Primetime football, Sunday night, last game of the regular season against the Detroit Lions. Well, I was reading an article earlier today, and I thought the author brought up a very good point. It was written by Ethan Thomas, and it kind of was almost reminiscent of the 2010 Green Bay Packers. And basically, the Packers' secret weapon is that nobody expects anything from them. You know, we've gone through some crazy seasons in the last decade as Packers fan. You know, the RELAX. We've seen the Packers win 15 football games. We've seen them lose in the first round of the playoffs. We've seen some crazy things. But if I turn back the clock over a decade ago to 2010, the Packers did finish 10-6. Matt Flynn did finish off the season for them, or almost finished off the season for them, and they got back-to-back losses before the end of the regular season. But nobody was really expecting the Packers to do anything crazy in the playoffs. So before we get into today's video, if you guys enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I post daily NFL content, Packers videos a couple times a week. If you're a Lions fan, I post Lions videos a couple times a week. Basically, just a bunch of NFL videos every single week. So Packers fans, if we could get this video to 100 likes, that would be absolutely awesome to me. This is only my 3rd ever Packers video, so if you guys want more, let me know down below. I thought it was funny earlier today, Matt LaFleur was asked if players are going to kick away from Keyshawn Nixon. And he was like, all right, well, we'll just pass it back to him. Like, got to ask the question again, and he doubled down. Like, yeah, if they, if they squib it or if they kick it short, just throw it back to him. So this is something that the Packers, as a fan here, I think we all can relate to this last season. I don't remember the last year the Packers were a special teams threat. And to be quite honest with you, we saw it last week against the Minnesota Vikings, the first possession of the game, getting a blocked punt. I don't necessarily feel great on our special teams, but when teams aren't kicking to us with Keyshawn Nixon back there, I feel very good. So that is something nice to have in your back pocket, whether it comes up against Detroit. If you get that victory against Detroit and head into the playoffs, it's definitely a nice secret weapon, something in your back pocket. Now, speaking of the playoffs, you still have to get through the Detroit Lions. And Detroit is a very impressive team, much like the Green Bay Packers, where their season started desperately, man. They were 1-6 to start the season. They're currently 8-8, just like the Green Bay Packers. And while they do need some help from Seattle, we'll actually know if Detroit can make the playoffs before we get into the Sunday night primetime game. If Seattle loses, the winner of the game gets into the playoffs. But, they play hard. They definitely play hard. These guys are fully united under Dan Campbell. So Packers coach Matt LaFleur was asked earlier today, it's Lions week, it was mentioned how good Jared Goff is. Quite possibly, he said, is playing his best football right now. The Detroit Lions and Jared Goff have gone 8 straight football games without an interception. His last pick was actually against Green Bay in early November, which was a Packers loss, which, that was just a completely, utterly embarrassing loss. I believe that made it 5 straight losses for us, and it was absolutely embarrassing. But anyways, to me, the point is, heading into Detroit, and even for the playoffs, the secret weapon What's going to be the difference maker is obviously, kind of playing with a chip on your shoulder. No one's expecting you to do anything crazy. A lot of people are already saying, regardless if Rodgers doesn't make the playoffs, if they do make the playoffs, even if they win the Super Bowl, Rodgers is done. He's either retiring or he's leaving the Green Bay Packers. This is 100% his last year as a Green Bay Packer. And while personally I may disagree with that, it is a nice kind of chip to have where we were 4-8. No one's expecting us to do anything crazy. All the media, all the press is on Philadelphia, Dallas, even Minnesota, especially a team like San Francisco, who we're looking like we would play if we do get into the playoffs. But defense is going to be a huge difference maker just headed into Detroit's game, especially because, as Matt LaFleur was mentioning, Detroit's been playing a very clean football game. Very, very clean. They are the best team as far as not giving up turnovers. They don't turn the ball over. Jared Goff, I know he's thrown almost 10 picks. That's not that much. Aaron Rodgers has more. They don't turn the ball over. They play very clean. They play very precise. And it's tough, man. So the Packers, in the last 2 weeks, we've had 4 takeaways, 4 turnovers forced in the last 2 games. That is the best we've had since 2016, which honestly doesn't even sound that long ago, but it is 6-7 years ago at this point. This defense is the difference maker. And we've talked about this so far this week is when you hand the ball off to Aaron Jones, you hand the ball off to A.J. Dillon, we're finally seeing that in this 4-game win streak, the ball being handed off. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to play hero football. He doesn't have to do anything crazy. He doesn't have to force any bad throws. And what that allows is the run game and the pass game to fully complement each other. As Rodgers alluded to in that last win, it was probably the first game of the season where players were complementary to each other. So if you're having these 7-minute drives, 8-minute drives, 9-minute drives, what is that doing? It's keeping your defense off of the field. What we saw in our desperate losing streak after starting 3-1 was the defense was just always on the field. And statistically speaking, Green Bay's ranked 17th in the league, and I don't buy that for 1 minute because that is not representative for the way I view this Packers defense. I get it, we've lost some guys like Rashawn Gary, but players are stepping up. It's not always going to show up in the stat sheet like it has these past 2 weeks, but if you keep that defense off of the field, it will. They're full of playmakers. Got Quay Walker, Adrian Amos, Devondre Campbell, Rasul Douglas, Preston Smith, Jair Alexander, Kenny Clark, Jerron Reed, Darnell Savage. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. So Green Bay, that's going to be the difference maker to me. Detroit versus Green Bay, who wins that game? It's going to be a couple things, 2 things. Who turns the ball over less, who plays the cleanest game, and whose defense steps up. And those 2 kind of go hand in hand there. So let me know what you guys are thinking for this Packers-Lions game and the Green Bay Packers in general heading into this final week of the season. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, hit that sub button. Like I said, get this video to 100 likes. That would be absolutely awesome. That's it from me. Have a good rest of your day, and I will see you guys later.